Owning a boat comes with a number of perks, like being able to fling your favorite fishing rod around. And here's another perk. Geico's boat insurance covers your boat and your belongings. And with specialist support from agents that are as passionate about boating as you are, there's so much value that you'll want to high-five someone. But not while you're holding your fishing rod. That's a prized possession. So hold on tight with both hands and keep it covered through boat insurance. Get more with Geico.
In the shadowy corridors of power within the Third Reich, a figure lurked whose beliefs in mystical runes and ancient Germanic lore would leave a dark imprint on history. A man known in some esoteric circles as the secret king of Nazi occultism. He was a self-proclaimed mystic and rune magician who claimed to possess ancestral clairvoyant memory that could trace back to pagan times, long before Christian influence touched the Germanic tribes. Advising Heinrich Himmler, one of the most powerful men in Nazi Germany, he contributed to the ideological fabric of the SS, infusing it with his own blend of Teutonic myths, esoteric symbols, and a vision of a renewed pagan Reich. Under his influence, Himmler would endeavor to reshape the SS into an elite cadre of pseudo-religious warriors. This case file, join the theorists as we clown on the crazy house origins of the SS with Karl Wiligut and the Nazi Occult.
Welcome to the Alien Theorist Theorizing Case File 350.
250.
Nazi it's 350.
It's 350?
Yes,
350.
350.
Talking about 350.
We said 350.
Oh, I
Who's
thought you
saying
said
not?
two-
Who didn't
I thought
say
you said
350?
250.
No.
It's 350.
Nazi Occult and Karl Wiligut.
Wiligut.
I'm Braden.
I'm Dan.
Nah, I'm Andrew.
Zell couldn't be here tonight. That's why we took the time, because we were learning about his
stuck in his
ancestors,
coffin.
and we're gonna from now on call him Podfear.
Podfear.
Yeah, that's officially Zell's new title.
Podfear.
No, it's dude, listen.
I can walk.
the interesting thing about this is I was kind of talking to Andrew
that we're talking about
earlier.
Nazis.
We're talking about Nazis.
Nazis are interesting.
First off.
They're terrible, but it's
terrible,
interesting.
right? Look, coming back in fashion, right?
Yeah.
I mean, arguably, they never went out of fashion. Hugo Boss is still making clothes. Like, that's pretty fucked up.
Yeezys now has one shirt.
Yeah, it's got a big old swastika on it.
That's it. That's all you can get. Sold out probably. The interesting thing I was telling Andrew earlier about this, I was like, if you take a step back, like Nazis, huge pieces of shit, right?
Massive pieces of
You
shit.
step
Massive.
backwards.
But like if you're thinking about like Karl Wiligut and his life trajectory, the guy was like, if he peaked Nazis, like he was in at the height and then he dropped off the face of the earth before he had a fucking before the downfall, before anything. Like he was riding that high life, right? So super interesting figure. Can't wait to get into where we start.
So Karl Wiligut, as Andrew notified me earlier, is that nobody knows who he is. Nobody.
No.
He's not in your pantheon
No.
of evil Nazi masterminds. Your Himmlers, your Hitlers.
He fucking should be, though.
If Himmler, let's say Himmler is Sauron, fucking Karl is Saruman. Right, he's the council of the wizards that he's gone to. He's like, hey, listen, I need your help.
He's the Jafar. He's the Jafar. He's in the fuck. He's a spiritual advisor.
He's Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess. Like,
Jafar's too mainstream.
He's like the evil person behind the evil person. Like,
Totally. He's like, who's the guy? He's like, maybe he's more like Gaston's fucking sidekick because he's basically just telling fucking Himmler exactly what he wants to hear.
Yeah,
right. Like he's like pumping his tires, being like, no,
it's just yeah. Karl Wiligut he's an interesting. As far objectively, just being like kind of an interesting character in the whole setting that is the rise of the Nazi Party and their occult influences that kind of float around in the upper echelons. So Karl Wiligut comes from I would say he kind of comes from a line of what were kind of known as like the Volkish mystics, Volkish being kind of this the German mysticism, paganism, mixed in with like a dash of nationalism and like esotericism on top.
Yeah, this would be a really weird tent at Shambhala.
Yeah,
right.
So he comes from people kind of like Guido, more other names people might know or might not know is the like Guido von List, Jorg Lanz von Liebenfels, guys who were kind of big in the occult.
All guys that you had posters on your wall, Dan. Like
of course,
guys, you fan, yeah,
mm-hmm. Big ones. Yeah. Who are these guys are occultists,
heroes.
They're former monks, Volk heroes. Yeah, that's a good. I think that pretty encapsulates it pretty well. So basically, these guys who all we're combining things like esotericism, which we kind of talked with the Blavatsky, that kind of thing where you were
like, this time was the occult was like, listen, this is like fucking, mid 90s, early 2000s fucking Pokemon. Like occult is that. Like, this is fucking huge. These guys are obsessed with it at every class, right? Like nothing's bigger than a cult at this point in time, I'd imagine. Like the rich people, everybody are participating in it. And it's not even just in Germany. It's all over fucking North America. It's everywhere.
Right. So yeah. So around that time, right after, between like right after World War I and then leading up to World War II, yes, esotericism, mysticism, big stuff. Everybody loves
What is
it.
esotericism? What is that?
The esotericism is the idea that you have this. It's like what we talked with Blavatsky. Like there's knowledge that you have to learn from like secret masters kind of stuff or whatever. There's like there's a super universal truth that you learn from the speakers, the masters, whatever. And if you study it, you learn it. That's kind of that kind of stuff.
Most of it comes from Tibet.
So Karl Wiligut was born on the 10th of December, 1866 in Vienna, and his father and his grandfather had both served as officers in the Austrian army. And so, of course, being coming from the long line of military men, in 1884, he began his military service. And during his military career, he served in the 99th, the 88th, and the 47th Infantry Regiments, and then in various parts of what was then the Habsburg Empire. So,
dude, and from what I read and stuff, and like, just a lot of trench warfare. This guy saw a lot of fucking.
Well, that's World War One.
Yeah,
World War One was like literally fucking trench warfare.
This guy was.
Well, this is 1888.
Well, yeah, but that's the timeline, right?
Like, yeah, even leading up, like this guy was King Grand Wizard of the trenches. Like he's like he was knee deep.
Have you ever heard of Have you ever heard of the Trench Raiders?
No,
like the.
What is that?
Like literally, I was just diving, and they were like basically dudes that were armed with fucking knives, daggers, and like revolvers, and they would get sent into the enemy trenches and just go like berserker.
Well, that's like the guy. It's like the trench warfare where they like the Germans wanted they wanted using shotguns classified as a war crime because guys would get into those trenches with shotguns and just like
blast everybody.
Tear them away. Canadians and Americans would get in there and just be like,
oh, buddy, Canadians, we've got a laundry list of fucking war crimes, especially in World War One. We were terrible.
We were leaving food out for people. It was like, dude, the whole battlefield was like a fucking mousetrap.
But we sent out poison food and stuff. I will mention we were doing all that stuff while you guys are on the sidelines, though.
Yeah. So you want those terrorists to come in, huh? Remember?
All right.
Remember you
Yeah,
fucking
here,
with
taste this poutine, pal.
Yeah. We got some Kurds coming to you, Dan.
So during the early parts of his military career, Wiligut demonstrated a lot of like a literary ambition at the time. He was like,
dude, why wouldn't you? You want to get out of the fucking trenches. You're like, I can't do this anymore. Like they're like, well, can you read? You're like, I'm gonna learn.
He was a badass.
He published a lot of like verse and like, you know, poetry and a lot of stuff that had to do with like kind of romantic in nature, being like, you know, celebrating nature, mythological subjects, and a lot of stuff like, you know, regimental history, which I assume is kind of like, you know, charge of the light brigade kind of evocative kind of stuff, I assume. So Wiligut, you know, kind of doing that, he's described in his military files as being good at kind of forming social connections, which
Charismatic.
Yeah. And which also like he was also a member of the Schlaraffia, which is, I guess, a quasi Masonic lodge that he joined in 1889, and he attained like the grade of knight and office of the chancellor, and then he resigned in like
Grand Poobah.
1909.
You know what? That's what we should have renamed all the Patreon tiers to cool fucking Masonic levels. I'm a knight chancellor of the ATT Patreon.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. I'm a 33-degree prolapser.
So in the May 19th, say May 1912, I think Wiligut was promoted to major, and he was still serving with the 47th Infantry Regiment at the time at the outbreak of World War One. So throughout, why are we getting a countdown now?
Braden, what did you do?
I don't know what happened.
What did you do, pal? Now it's recording.
So it was not recording before?
We're recording a YouTube, so it's fine.
Okay.
Zell's getting his money's worth for this one.
Podviewer is going to be fucking
Yeah, Podviewer is going to be livid with me. I'll never hear the end of this.
So throughout World War One, Wiligut had a number of commands, which saw him kind of, you know, he saw combat across various theaters of the war, moving him around during that time. And he was, you know, he garnered a lot of decorations for his bravery. He was highly commended by most of his senior officers. And after nearly 40 years of professional military service, he was discharged on the 1st of January, 1919, and he retired, you know, to Salzburg to kind of hang out and, you know, enjoy his military retirement after, you know, they lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with these connections and these social connections, he kind of did all that stuff, and he's still moving forward in his literary ambitions. Wiligut kind of became important to a lot of Volkish groups, and like all of that stuff kind of formed his reputation around this that he said he was the last, he kind of claimed to be the last descendant of a long line of prehistoric Germanic sages. Which this is all part of kind of the Volkish lore, where it's like they had the German people were part of this line of these basically druids. Like
Dan, there's
German
no claims. There's no claims when you can see into the past. He's seen it.
Yeah,
that's
He's
right.
seen it.
Yes, Wiligut did claim to possess like ancestral clairvoyant memory,
and at this point, I just want to add that everyone who knew Wiligut was like, the war really fucked him up. Like, yeah, he's a different guy when he came out of those trenches.
Loved it, dude. This Wiligut had guys eating out of his fucking palm.
Oh yeah,
hand.
dude,
They
I would
believed
too
this
if you were
shit.
watching this guy fireball people in the fucking trenches.
Yeah.
Casting firebolts everywhere.
Got a fucking
entangling roots and
Yeah.
acid ball and everything. Yeah, throwing all those
Right.
weird spells. So with this this ability of ancestral clairvoyant memory, this is what Wiligut claimed gave him the ability to recall history and experiences from his tribe that he's descended from like thousands of years. So he could just call that stuff back by memory.
He's the chosen one.
He claims to be like he's descendant of like the initial Aryan race, right?
Well, not necessarily. I don't know if it was like
that's
Aryan
like
at this point, but they were
but like the superior German tribe.
Yeah.
It's such an old trope too. It's like when you come of age, you'll gain your powers. That's what happens to him.
Well,
he's like 30.
He claimed that he received instruction, and this is kind of part of the esotericism part. Whereas he claimed that he was instructed in the reading of runes from his grandfather, other Karl Wiligut, and this is that after he got instructions in runes, he was initiated into his family's secrets. From like 1890 or so, like on, like this is when he was being like, okay, so now, yes, you come from this long line of mystics and powerful ancestors who. That's
the kind of family secrets you want. You don't want to like the only family secrets we end up getting. It's like, yeah, you're adopted. Or your fucking cousin is your aunt.
Listen,
uncle,
you know what? Willigut's ancestors might
Yeah.
might have a little bit of a gripe with that now because they're like, we're just gonna skip the ancestry between the 30s to 1945. Just skip that little bit.
So Wiligut at this point is kind of like he's going around saying that he is descended from this long line of like mystics and whatever, and that he has all of the cosmic knowledge that they have accumulated over these centuries, and he's kind of writing out all this stuff. He wrote out a series of these, like one of his books, I think or pamphlets, he kind of put out these 9 pagan commandments that he was written down as like that was in July 1908 that he wrote down. And then like the thing is like pre-war pagan tradition for Wiligut, like anything before that time is really sketchy. Like anything before then, you only have like word of mouth, like people.
It's going to get sketchier.
So it's kind of like not a lot of people who kind of knew who he was, like or knew of.
He's a fucking mystic.
Dude, he's a dude running around wearing a robe.
Yeah, man.
So it's not like all of the records like about him being like pre him coming to prominence as like this Volkish this Volkish authority is all kind of like it's not there. Like it's like people don't really like have any records about him or know about him. It's just people kind of like recently met him.
He's too busy dominating the trenches, man. He didn't have time for that kind of stuff.
So he wasn't exchanging. He was taking names and kicking asses. He wasn't giving out his. People didn't know. All they saw was a cloak when they were laying face up, right? As he ran over them through the trench.
So there were these rumors kind of swirling around of Wiligut after the war about kind of him being involved in what was like the secret German kingship that was like this was kind of floating around in that Volkish subculture that was kind of running around at this point and becoming very popular due to various cultural stuff going on at the time. And so he was visited by what's his name? Zeppel.
It's a weird.
Right. Sounds very Nazi-ish.
Yeah, Theodor Zeppel, who was a member of the Order of the New Templars. Okay, because secret societies really big at this point. Like, but if you're not in a secret society at this point, you're not cool.
Just like if you're
to any parties,
if you're not on our Patreon, you're not cool.
Yeah,
same thing.
You're not getting invited to any barbecues. You're not getting, you're not going anywhere unless you're part of a.
We got to get the ATT rings made up.
Yeah, pinky rings.
We need them.
Yeah. We need our ATT secret handshake. We need to get that down.
Yeah.
So apparently Zeppel like he visited Wiligut on like 3 occasions, and one time spending like at least like 7 weeks with Wiligut at his Salzburg home in the winter of 1920 to like 21. And he recorded his experiences with Wiligut in like an extensive memorandum like that he prepared for the New Templars, because they were all kind of, again, secret societies. This guy's running around claiming that he's the last in line of these sacred order of Germanic kings, ancient Germanic kings, he's on your radar. You're like, okay, this guy's throwing out a bunch of stuff. You're gonna say, who is this guy?
Well, absolutely. Like, not only would this guy be on your fucking radar too, because he's got like this credibility to him as well. Like, he's not only is he yes, they lost, but how many battles has this guy survived? Right? Like, there's some credibility that comes with that, right? He's a fucking decorated war hero. He's charismatic. Like, we all know these fucking culty guys all have to be, right? You got to be able to fucking sell the miracle spring water, right? Like, so it's like you can see why people are drawn to this dude.
Either he genuinely believed like what he was saying, like, you know.
When wouldn't he, like, his membership in the fucking Schlarophia or whatever, wouldn't that be a little bit of like a rival, like, secret group? So it's like you're kind of like, you don't think?
Well, he wasn't. He resigned
at that time.
Post.
He
resigned. He had already resigned his post.
He's on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, like in was that early 1900s, so 1909, 1908. I think he resigned. So Wiligut told Zeppel things like he was the bearer of a secret line of German royalty. He showed him tomes, which there was like heraldry on there and like his own coat of arms and like a family seal that he said, this is proof of his claim that I have this, you know, this cool looking coat of arms, coat of arms stuff that, you know, we made in my school. We made those in like 6th grade.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
You know?
Yeah, mine was like a hockey stick.
You're like, this, I am the king.
No, but you can actually, like, especially Germans, like, they're big about coat arms, and you can look them up. Like,
I've looked at mine. I've seen like a names place where you can look, and like I have a coat of arms for my like original Hungarian name.
Yeah. Like, is it your is that your family's coat of arms, or is it just like a Renner one?
It's like my family's coat of arms.
Oh, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah. It's not.
We weren't fucking around with that shit back then.
No.
What do you mean, buddy? You want coat of arms? I give you coat of whatever you want, huh?
Yeah.
You want coat? It's not coat. What do you mean?
Well, you guys were traveling.
Wait, that's my coat. I put that out.
Why not have arms on your coat, buddy? What do you mean? Huh?
That's a flag.
Yeah, what do you want, huh?
He sold Zeppel on a lot of this stuff. Basically, I think from his very very descriptive, very descriptive stuff of like talking about practices, religious practices, military organization, and like the constitutional arrangements of these ancient Germans, which also coincidentally, these things all seem to line up with Guido von List, who was already a prominent kind of Volkish, which we mentioned him earlier. He was already kind of big on the scene as well. So you're like, Zeppel's probably thinking, so it's like, he's Guido von List is a authority on this stuff, and this stuff all lines up. This guy's got to be. It's
crazy that you would let anybody named Guido be a fucking authority on anything. That's just.
I think that universally through history, the worst name ever.
Yeah.
Potential.
And Wiligut, he also maintained that the original Bible had been written in Germany. Like, that was another big thing.
They pushed that hard. Like, they also pushed that, like, we'll get into it later, but a big thing for them was that, like, Jesus was not Jewish. Like, he was Germanic. And that's like, it's funny because they fought so hard for that. They obviously lost. They lost the war, everything like that. Everything's got discredited. I'm like, we still got white Jesus, though.
Yeah.
Jesus looks way more dramatic than he looks fucking Middle Eastern. So
Jesus lost his blonde surfer hair and blue eyes, though, right?
Yeah.
You know how much sadder he would look on the cross, fucking beach blonde hair, slick back, looking like McConaughey.
Yeah.
So from like the descriptions of Zeppel and his meeting with Wiligut at this point, having that information, it's a lot of historians like deduce that Wiligut had like blended a lot of the ideas that were taken from like the Teutonic archaism stuff that Guido von List was putting out there, along with the Areo-Christianity of lands we mentioned before, like those two big names, and this stuff will eventually become Nazi ideology, and so that's, you could say that like he was already doing this, like it's proto combining both of these, which would eventually form into doing the fusion dance into Nazi ideology. So
it's interesting. They pulled a lot of that too from the Tacitus's Germania. Have you ever heard of that. He basically like documented Tacitus. He was a Roman scholar. He documented a few different wars battles between the Romans and the Germanic tribes, and like noted how fierce the Germanic tribes were. The Romans lost several times. And in this, like, he kind of spent some time documenting, how the Germanic tribes lived, their customs, their laws, and how like they pursued purity in their tribes. And like he basically described them, they're a people of their own, right? Like they don't look like anyone else because they're all blonde haired, blue eyed. And, they started training their kids at young ages. Like the Romans adopted that too. And obviously the Nazis did too with the Hitler youth, but like they like a lot of what they had in this descriptions of these old school ancient Germanic tribes is what they used to justify, their Aryan race. And like, we have to, these were powerful people. This is where our bloodlines come from. We have to use this as kind of like, everybody had to read it and use it as like a playbook as to how to be a proper fucking, SS member, a proper Nazi. So,
right. And so like, Wiligut had this very developed like chronology about the history of like the German culture and German people. And like, so much so that his stuff apparently started back in like 200, he says started back in like 228,000 BC. And at this time, described by him, like there were 3 suns in the sky. The earth, there were giants, there were dwarves, and other mythical beings that populated the earth at the time. And this is where his ancestors come in, which he referred to as the Adler Vilgoten, which I guess they managed to pacify a lot of these tribes. They restored like peaceful conditions after this long period of strife during between all of these tribes around that time. And all of this kind of came to a head when they founded the city of what he said is Aral Joruvalis or Goslar in 78,000 BC. Then in 12,500 BC,
Younger Dryas,
there was
the weather anomaly, the impact anomaly, wiped out all evidence.
And it was like after that, he talks about all of these religions being founded that were like the universal faith of the Germans, and then it was like challenged by another group, and like in 9,000 BC, like the wars between these two religions, climaxed into like the schism between these two. And then this is where they get like all of this stuff would like eventually become like, this is where we lost our identity. And there's something I think in here where it's like, he poses like these people, the people who challenge our original traditions were like the descendants of the Jewish people or outside influences, like it coming in here and doing our stuff. Like it's
such a wild time in history too, because you think about like how much like written history like just gets destroyed by another culture coming in and being like, no, we don't like your ideas, and just like tear all the books up, burn all the books, and it's like your history like back then is gone. Like all of it is gone, like lost to time. We will never have any idea what happened. It's always wild when I think about this kind of stuff back then, of when you have these wars of these ideologies, and it's like, we probably don't even know half of them that were around at the time because of, wars.
They got wiped out, or if they didn't have any written language, or
getting wiped out, and then like, too bad, so sad.
So in the early 1920s, like how, I guess after developing all this, Wiligut became convinced that he was a target of persecution and people of his tribe, which from the Catholic Church, the people of the Jewish faith, Freemasonry. Ooh. So he blamed all of them for why they lost the war and why the Habsburg Empire.
It's a pretty powerful trifecta. A whole group of people, the Catholic Church and the Freemasons.
And so along with this, subsequently, of course, he founded an anti-Semitic league in Salzburg, and then became like the editor of a newspaper.
League, like baseball?
He, well, and he founded. He became editor of a newspaper called Der. I guess it's a German. Der Eiserne Besen, and which is translates to the Iron Broom. Which is, I guess, you pair it with the Iron Curtain, I guess. I'm not really sure. And then he would, in this paper, he would use that to push his views.
I don't know. I thought it translated to InfoWars. But
Yeah.
And he used that to attack a lot of like the Jewish community and the Freemasons in there. So
those roots run fucking deep. Hey, like this hatred.
yeah.
It's crazy. It's
yeah.
like,
And it ran so deep that in 1924 he got involuntarily committed to the Salzburg Mental Asylum, where he was certified insane, certified donkey brains.
it's nice to know that like Germany in the early 1920s, they were still like, yeah, man, you can't do that. That's
Yeah.
not okay. Like, why are you hating so much? Like,
Yeah.
wait a couple of years and they'll be like, well, it's kind of point.
Yeah. And then he got pardoned.
Yeah.
There's no weird parallels
Which is like-
today.
Which is like they're like like getting access to like the full report of his condition. Eventually, like historians, I saw like it was really, I don't even know if it was that stuff that got him committed. It was actually like his violence at home. Like he was
I
becoming.
thought he was like a
increasingly
full blown schizophrenic.
that's what they diagnosed him with, because I think this is, but what got him there was like he was starting to become more and more violent at home. He was threatening to kill his wife and stuff like that.
It's honestly though, like now in this day and age, it's like this guy was probably fucking riddled with PTSD.
Oh,
Yeah,
Like trench warfare, fucking out the ass, like
wife
World
drops
War
the
One.
plate. Wife drops
Yeah,
the plate.
like-
You're dead.
The Jews. But you don't understand. Like you look at even World War One. It's like you're not even fighting them. Why do you hate them so much? I don't understand. I'm so
that always
confused.
been a thing.
That's what I mean. I want to know why. I'm so confused by it.
Goes back way back. That'd take a lot.
Why?
There are a couple podcasts to
Yeah.
goes back
Explore
to,
the
like,
beef.
blood libel stuff.
Yes,
Way
like I
back.
don't. It's just don't. It's just, and there's just, I don't know. I'm
It's
confused.
the diagnosis of him at this mental hospital, having a history of schizophrenia involving megalomaniac and paranoid delusions and grandiose projects. I was like, this guy was a fucking megalomaniac. He was going to be a supervillain. Like if he was,
He is.
yeah.
He becomes a
You can't
supervillain.
get-
Yes.
You can't get committed
Yes.
to an insane asylum and then start going on about your 3 sons, kings, and,
Yeah,
and
get
giants.
some-
elves
Hey,
and
I'm
stuff.
descendant of the gods.
100% put you.
There was giants and there's 3 suns in the sky. I swear to you.
Not listening.
Took the answer too. Now we only have to find.
There is 3 suns.
Like,
Not
okay.
3.
No, 3.
Oh man, that'd be so funny. He's just yelling at everyone, and then it's like all the doctors are Jewish, obviously.
Yeah.
He's so mad.
So after he gets out in 1927, he's kind of bumming around for a second, and then this is 27, 28, and 29. He would eventually be introduced by his old friend Richard Anders, and apparently nobody would have known then that it would kick off like this, but Richard Anders had recently become an officer in the recently founded SS, and he introduced Karl Wiligut to his chief, Heinrich Himmler.
But like
Funny.
my thing was like him, like they after 3 years they just like fucking they're just like, all right, you're crazy, but we're sick of dealing with you. Like they're just like, what? Like how does he just get out? That's what I could never find. Like at this
be
time.
like he got
Oh,
cured.
he was
You're just
treated.
like, you're
Yeah,
good.
they treated him.
We
They
diagnosed you.
treated him with enough fucking leeches and electrotherapy and
Yeah.
lobotomies, and they're like, this guy's fucking fixed.
Yeah, send him out.
He's good now.
Little
Little did they know.
fuck. Should have kept him in there for a little
Yeah.
while.
yeah.
Forever.
So when Heinrich Himmler met Wiligut, he was apparently very impressed by Wiligut's ancestral
Spellcraft.
clairvoyant memory, right?
You know what's so funny about this though is like before, like you'd look at it and it's like these Nazis have put themselves so far on pedestals. Like we're fucking superior. We're the superior race. Everything is up. We're the best. We're gonna take over the fucking world. This guy knows. He's telling me the story, and it's like you're fucking. He's crazy. And you think you're smarter than everybody, and you're listening to this fucking nut job. Like it's hilarious.
You listen to the Grand Wizard over here talking
buddy,
about the
like,
three sons.
what?
And he's like, shit. This guy knows a lot about the ancestors.
This guy's been fucking eating glue in a mental asylum for 3 years, and now he's your guy. Like he's your go-to.
Well, especially when you know that he was like, when you know they're like,
Oh, they don't know he was in a fucking.
No.
They didn't know he was a
but
nutcase.
he has schizophrenia, and he starts talking. They're like, he has this insane recall of knowledge, and you're like, no, he has paranoid delusions.
Yeah,
and
he's making
these like
things up.
high-ranking officers are like, bravo.
Yeah.
And I think around this time, like Himmler was kind of looking for this kind of information. Like he was, he had founded the SS. They're looking for
what
these.
information. This guy,
Well, it's
Well,
like
it fits. It literally fits his narrative. This is what
Yeah,
he like.
okay.
I will say when you get into this a bit, like Himmler was a fucking genius propagandist. Is that a right word? Propagandist?
Yeah.
Propagandy, whatever the fuck. But he was like, he knew a lot of this fucking shit that he bought into. He knew he could use it as propaganda to manipulate people.
Right.
Like, and that's not only that, he's a fucking giant. He's a giant nerd. Himmler was a giant history nerd, right? Like he loved this shit.
I think
he would be
it's
playing
Himmler-
Dungeons and Dragons and fucking Warhammer.
I think it was. I mean, Himmler was always kind of interested in stuff that would kind of like unify like the German people, and it's like this line of like Volkish, like the Volkish mysticism and that stuff, which seemed to claim to run in this underlying thing. It's like kind of it pulled on the heartstrings of like the German people of being like, yes, we have a like Germany hadn't been a country for very long.
We
There's a
are
whole
wizards.
thing,
Yeah.
like country, like the country. of
You're a wizard, Himmler.
had never really had a national identity. And this is
how Slytherin was founded.
and I think wasn't Himmler didn't get into World War One. Like he wasn't
No,
like
he had a chicken.
get
He
deployed.
took care of chickens.
right, but he never got deployed to the front. And then I
No.
think he always had like he always kind of like had like an inferiority kind of thing to
Well,
him.
he's by
was
all
always an
accounts a
outsider.
nerdy guy. He's not big. He was skinny. He was.
I think he always felt like an outsider to everybody else because all of the other German officers and stuff like that, they could bond. They had that kind of bond that you get between
Bros.
war buddies.
war. You bond over
war.
fucking experience and war and tragedy.
He never
and
had that,
hardship.
and then this stuff, like kid was able to kind of, his
He's
in.
like, I like
magic.
magic.
But he compared him like he claimed to be a descendant of like fucking Heinrich the Fowler, right? Like King Heinrich the first
Right.
king of Germany, right? Like he bought right into this shit because he used it to even make himself look like he was fucking better than he was, right?
So in September of 1933, Wiligut like formally joined the SS, but Himmler found out about his stint.
He's a little bit crazy,
yeah.
That's not a big
And
deal.
so he had him join under the pseudonym Karl Maria Weistor. And then he was appointed to the Department for Pre and Early History within the Race and Settlement Main Office.
Awesome.
Which is a crazy title.
Well, it's crazy too because like this is pre-World War II. We're getting into like terrible stuff. We're getting into eugenics. It's getting the scary thing about it too. It's like Germany was seeing what they were doing in the United States and learning from their eugenics as well and being like, oh, wow, if we don't start doing this type of stuff, right, these people are going to be more pure and superior than us. We need to start doing it, right? So they start ramping up the eugenics. And at first, it's like, we need to get rid of, we need to keep our bloodlines pure. We need to get rid of people with disabilities. It's fucking terrible. Alcoholics, they wanted to fucking get rid of, like those people to sterilize them. And then you start getting into Wiligut and this fucking this ancient master race of Germans that
Look,
are
it's
fucking.
like, you know who else we should get rid of?
Well, but it's like that's when this stuff gets even fucking crazier because he's like, oh, you know, we don't like Jews, we don't, and they use that to manipulate because, like, we're gonna get into some like quirky stuff and some really kind of like interesting, cool stuff, and then you realize like, oh, they used all this stuff to justify doing the worst things imaginable, like literally imaginable, and it's like I find you have to remind yourself because you're like, this stuff is actually super interesting. And then you're like, oh, but they used it to be the worst people ever. Okay, good.
And so like Himmler and Wilgut's like relationship was very cordial. Apparently, like they exchanged birthday telegrams and gifts to each other. They were always like maintaining written correspondence to each other. They have letters proving this. And
may all the three suns shine on your birthdays. Happy birthday! Yeah.
And
This episode is sponsored by Moo.com.
Hey dudes, if you're like me and Zell, man, we totally think cannabis should be accessible, affordable, convenient, and transparent, dudes.
Have you heard of Moo.com? They sell federally legal weed, gummies, everything you'd expect from a dispensary, and shipping it right to your door. No Budweiser sweats required.
I'm serious, dudes. You can now get high quality, 100% federally legal cannabis products delivered right to your door without ever leaving your couch.
And you can get $30 off your first order at Moo.com/alien with promo code ALIEN.
Best of all, dudes, not only is every Mood product backed by a 100-day satisfaction guarantee, but dudes, as I mentioned, listeners get $30 off their first order, man, with promo code ALIEN, man.
That's right. Head over to Moo.com/alien or click the link in the show notes. Check out the dispensary and let Mood help you discover and expand your perspectives.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to leave up holiday decorations year-round. Others have the need to use their garage as practice space for their new metal band. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.
And like from like all accounts, like Himmler either just he believed everything that Wiligut said, even though Wiligut had no real proof of any of this stuff. And like,
yeah, but when sometimes you just get that feeling. You know what I mean?
I like this guy.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
legit.
Got a gut feeling about
Feeling my loins.
Yeah.
He's got no documented, he's got a degree from Trust Me Bro University. And it's just like, this guy.
But again, okay, I'm going to go back to it though. He comes with that credibility. He's a fucking war hero. He's exactly, no, but you laugh, but it's the truth. He's exactly what they want to be. He's this big, strong fucking war hero, decorated. He's charismatic. He's like, that's the type of person the German people need to aspire to be like. A fucking badass. That's good.
And I'll tell you, sometimes these crazy people, you never know. I know this crazy guy that lives on the streets of Campbell River, like one of the most unhinged crazy people you've ever met in your entire life. Like he's got 100% like dementia or something going on, fueled with like drug use, and he's just all over the place out there. And he's like screaming at me one day, and he's like, I used to ride a Harley. And my Harley was featured magazine, $150,000 Harley. Bottles rotted. I was in the magazine, the counter. And I'm like, okay, yeah, cool, man. Like he's like, you don't believe me. I was like, I believe you. He's like, I'll be back. And he leaves, and he came back with a calendar from like 2002. And he's like, flip through it. And I'm like, I don't need to.
Why were you outside long enough for him to come find you?
And so I work in one place, so he knows.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
So I'm flipping through it. And it's like all like topless girls. So I'm all like, ooh, on motorcycles. And then I get to like Mr. October, and there he is. This fucking crazy guy with his $150,000 bike, and he won some award for like nicest bike in Canada, one of the 12 nicest motorcycles in Canada.
Difference is this guy's the opposite of that, though.
Yeah,
like this is complete opposite. You're like, this guy's crazy, but then he has kernels of truth where it's like the opposite. Like, I have no idea this guy's crazy.
What are you talking about? He's got his hair.
Yeah, but no, what I'm saying is maybe
hand drawn coat of arms. Like, what are you talking about? That's proof right there.
But maybe
That's
this
what I mean.
guy
Yeah,
is
like
the reverse, where it's like this guy I know is so crazy when you talk to, you're like, this guy's
that you don't want to believe anything.
You don't want to believe anything. But this guy is like, by all accounts, is so fucking charismatic and so steadfast and like well spoken and well educated and well read at the time that you're like, fucking I believe everything this guy says. He's so with it. But you don't realize that you're talking to a fucking crazy person.
Well, it's
like that's the difference.
I don't know. That was a bit of a that was a ride. It was a well ride.
Yeah, just like $150,000 Harley.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's what I'm saying. Like maybe they believed him because he's just so well
spoken. They believed him because he's credible, because he's a war hero, because he's what they are aspiring to be like. That's what makes sense to me. It's like, and you know what? He's a badass.
I forget he was in World War I too.
Well, yeah, and like look at there's tons of fucking batshit crazy famous people. You look at Kanye, he's a perfect example. That guy's fucking nuts, but he's talented and he's charismatic, so people love him. They buy his stupid shoes. They do all that type of shit. That guy's fucking batshit. He is genuinely batshit crazy, but he's
I don't know. He makes some pretty good points.
Really?
I'm kidding.
And like the thing is like, and there were people telling Himmler like, hey, this guy might not be totally on the level. A lot of this stuff that he's saying doesn't make any sense. Like people in what was in the like the SS like historian branch, like the like actual academics and stuff that were like members of the SS and stuff were telling him
the
Annanerba. Yeah, they were telling him, no, none of this stuff that he says is true, and it's not supported by any evidence that we have, like at all. And Himmler's like, shut up, nerds.
So that brings in what I want to talk about is perfectly, because now you start finding evidence to fit your fucking narrative. And that's what they did, which is fucking crazy. Like Himmler created the fucking Annanerber, which their entire fucking existence was to try and prove that Wiligut and their entire, like Hitler's claims to being the master race and all that stuff was true.
Yeah, right? I mean, like they were out there being like, okay, you need to find stuff that supports this, or you need to make it up. Like, yeah,
100%. Like it's fucking crazy. It's so. Do you want to get into that? You want to take a break? What do you guys want?
We can't really take a break.
We can't. Okay.
No break.
I'll use.
We can kind of take a break. I just don't have a break screen, but we can. You want to take a break?
Just get up. You guys want to take a break, or I can power through and peel it?
No. I can go black screen.
Give
All right, we're taking a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hope we're taking.
We're back. I think we're back. Yeah, we're back. All right, where were we?
Where were we? What are we talking about now?
The on a nerd.
You want to talk about Annanerber?
Uh-huh.
So in 1935, Himmler organized a meeting at the Berlin headquarters of the SS where he discussed his desire to launch a prehistoric research institute. Himmler took the role of superintendent, a position entailing considerable control, by placing him in charge of a board of trustees. Their formal goal was to promote the science of ancient intellectual history. And not only promote it, but manipulate it, apparently. So Annanerber basically means ancestral heritage. It's a pseudoscientific organization that was just basically like an appendage of the SS. And their main goal was to promote that Germans were descended from the Aryan race, and they were genetically superior to everybody, as we've heard a million times. That was a big thing. As
Zell says at the beginning of every show.
All time. Pop Fior. The Ahnenerbe consisted of academic scientists from a broad range of academic disciplines. Probably the coolest thing about them is they went on like fucking various expeditions all around the world, basically to uncover shit in hopes, you know, of proving that they were the superior race. These guys were literally the bad guys from Raiders.
Yeah.
Like they were the bad Nazis from the Raiders. It's
Right.
real. That's fucking real. It's crazy. Himmler kind of like, it sounds like he regarded it as more of like a think tank, right? Like he would get everybody together, they'd get together, they'd fucking sit there and they'd plan these expeditions. And then they would basically find this evidence to justify their policies and their like just the most horrific fucking things that they could do. You know, they'd look back in history and be like, look, we've done this before. King Heinrich the First did this.
Yeah.
King Heinrich hated the Jews too, so we do. We
Trying
have
to
to.
justify your mandate for doing horrible things. You're
Totally.
like, yeah. Or your legitimacy of being like, we can make this decision because, you know, we dictate what Christianity is because it was here, like because we found a pottery shard over here.
Totally.
Like, yeah.
But you look at it though, and it's like Himmler, for how horrible he was smart. Like he knew how to push, he knew how to propagandize. Is that the right word? I don't know. He's a master propagandy.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Because in this group, in Ahnenerbe, he's got fucking archaeologists, he's got ethnologists, he's got folklore people, he's got basically everybody from different fucking professions that are credible. He's got doctors, he's got scientists, he's got people, genuinely credible people to work for this. And then they come up with this fucking evidence to be like, look, this is what we found. This is why we're the fucking greatest. And the people ate that shit up. One of the fucking coolest things that I've come across when I was looking at this, Dan, I guarantee he's heard of this guy because he's fucking rad. Otto Rahn, but probably Indiana Jones, probably the basis for Indiana Jones. So Otto Rahn was a German writer and an amateur archaeologist. He was born in 1904. He was completely fascinated with medieval legends, particularly the Holy Grail. So what he did is, like, his big thing was he believed that the Grail was connected to the Cathar stronghold in Montague in France. So this is pre-Nazism. This is pre-World War II. This is like, this guy is just a fucking, you know, somewhat well-off German guy who's super into the Holy Grail. And he goes to France. He buys a small hotel that he ends up like working out of and starts looking for the Holy Grail himself. Now, Himmler, obviously super into the occult, ends up finding Otto Rahn's book, finding that he wrote about his explorations. Otto Rahn ended up having to leave France because he ran out of money, but he wrote the book. Himmler finds it, reads it, and was like, I need this guy. This is our guy. This guy's going to find the fucking Holy Grail for us. Finds him, gets him a fucking sweet Hugo Boss jacket, and funds all his expeditions. Like, sends this guy around the world looking for the Holy Grail. You know, Otto Rahn.
He's like, I think it's in Hawaii.
Yeah, no shit, right? That fucking would be right. But so Ron literally gets all this funding, goes on all these explorations, you know, doesn't find the Holy Grail, kind of falls out of, you know,
favor,
Himmler's fucking good graces. They end up sending him to work as a guard in Dachau, which sounds like a horrible job. And Ron gets to see, like, a lot of times he didn't really see what the SS were doing because he's out on these expeditions, right?
Yeah,
he's not
just wearing
seeing a
cool uniform, like, hey.
Yeah. And this guy's Indian. This guy's more like Belloc. Like, this is 100% like.
No, I don't think so, because when he realized how terrible this kind of stuff is, he basically kills himself. He was also fucking Jewish and gay, so that didn't help. He had to hide that from everybody. But it sounds like he was not, like, he didn't enjoy the fucking, like, he's like, I don't really want to be part of this, but it's kind of shitty. He took the funding, but
yeah.
Anyways, pretty cool story. So like I was saying, the Ahnenerbe went on like multiple different expeditions. They went to Iceland because apparently it was a particular interest to Hitler and Himmler due to the belief that the country was the area where the Thule Society took over. Yeah, like we talked about that before, which was pretty cool. They did an expedition to Karelia, the region of Finland, to record pagan sorcerers and witches. They brought along a magnaphone, hoping to record pagan chants. One of the only team's successes was finding Myron Aku, a soothsayer believed to be a witch by the locals. Upon meeting the group, she claimed to have foreseen their arrival. The team persuaded her to perform a ritual on camera and a tape recorder, and she summoned the spirits of their ancestors, which is kind of fucking interesting. We get a little shitty when they did an expedition to Tibet. So it sounds like they believed that I'll get into it in a sec, but they believed that the Atlanteans were the first Aryan race, and they fled from Atlantis to Tibet, and that's where they took refuge, was in Tibet. So they sought, evidence of the Aryan origin in Tibet. So they went around and they measured skulls and studied local customs. So basically they're like lining up all the Tibetan people and trying to find ones that fit like the skull structure of like Aryans or of Germans and shit like that. Yeah, like fucking bizarre.
The calipers out in there. Like,
literally, like there's pictures of that. Which
was phrenology done by them? Were they still like measuring people?
They were measuring. Like I was looking at pictures of it. They went to Scandinavia because they were in search of Mjolnir, Thor's hammer, because they believed that was like one of the first super weapons that generated unnatural energies.
What the goal of these Nazis to think that they were going to be
they were worthy. They would be the only people worthy. I mean, listen, the Hemsworths pretty fucking, they fit the bill. Even the oldest one, the one from Westworld and other shitty B movies.
Yeah.
And then obviously France, they went to Montague to look into that, but like, it's pretty fucking wild. Like you think about it, pretend they weren't doing this for shitty reasons.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
It's cool. They're doing like they're
Indiana Jonesing.
Yeah, they're going on a worldwide history hunt trying to track down their heritage and the proof of these stories that they believe. It is cool until you're like
until you realize they were using it to justify fucking genocide and horrible shit
when
like
they're
that.
Sending people out there to find. It's like you're not going out there because mostly, legit archaeologists and stuff, like you're going out to kind of disprove stuff. Like you go out there looking for, ways to disprove a theory or like what a challenge another theory to be like, if these guys are going out there subjective. These guys are not these guys objective. They're not they're not going out there to be like, we're going to see what's in this area and then that'll tell us about this. It's what we're going to go there. And if we find stuff, this means this. Like
it's kind of interesting. Like
you're looking genuinely for the evidence to prove your theory.
They literally went looking for like Longinus's spear, like the Holy Lance, which they did get. If it is the real one, they did get it. But it's kind of cool because, like, so if you don't know what Longinus' spear is it's the spear that supposedly pierced Jesus's fucking rib cage while he was on the cross during the crucifixion. And it said that whoever possesses the spear will have the power to control the world.
Like you can find any like reasonably old looking Roman spear tip and just be like,
Totally. But so supposedly like it was in Vienna, right? And Hitler saw it when he was a kid and he became fucking obsessed with it. Apparently when he saw it, he had a vision of the future.
Chip, I want that shit.
Yeah. And, but it's cool things like, so you look into the history of Longinus' spear and supposedly Charlemagne, which like the first emperor of Rome, wielded that for 47 consecutive battles. And he fucking, the day he dropped it is the day he died. Right? Like made up potentially. Right. But
it's like going to look for Excalibur and being like, wow, I found it. There's all these things you see people like all the jokes every time they find like a sword in a lake. They're like, it's Excalibur, but apparently like they were doing that all the time. Like people are tossing swords into lakes all the fucking time.
You say that, but the Nazis did recover a spear that they said was the Spear of Destiny, Longinus' spear. Hitler ordered it taken to Nuremberg in 1945. When the Allies recovered the spear, Hitler committed suicide and died.
It's like we were already there.
I think it was a spear.
Okay.
I had nothing to do with them losing the war. I think it was.
I mean,
a
they were
spear.
already losing the war.
I don't
it was a
remember
spear.
any pictures of Hitler just wielding the spear.
Well, so he should have. They would have won.
Yeah, they would have won.
He would have. They would have went into. If they would have went into Russia with a spear, they probably would have.
Yeah,
Things
like
would have been better.
Tossing hearts with a big spear.
Yeah.
Way better.
Sorry. So yeah, in order to like put this, like tie this all together, I guess Himmler and Wiligut started putting together the idea that we need a base, we need a head, we need a super villain.
We don't just need a base. We need any good supervillain, like like Cobra, like anybody.
Yeah.
You need fucking castle.
Yeah.
We need a
Castle.
Temple of Doom.
We need a castle.
So they would go ahead and take over Wewelsburg Castle, which is located in Westphalia. And this was the place that was designated by Himmler in the mid 1930s that was going to become the spiritual and ideological center for the SS.
They actually called it the Nazi Temple of Doom.
I don't think so, but
Yes,
maybe
that's what it's referred to. That's what it's referred
Maybe
to.
the
I mean,
Americans
any-
call it.
yeah,
when
the
they-
Americans.
like that's
No, like the
Maybe
American. It's referred to now as the Nazi
Temple.
Temple of Doom.
And I mean, yes, very much so, because this is where Himmler envisioned all of the cultic and like all of the esoteric rituals that they were going to perform with the SS leaders. They would be at that castle.
You had people reading scrolls in Sanskrit. You had people in the corner
in your robes and the candles.
Well, they like he believed that it was like he wanted to be like the Knights of the Round Table, basically. Like he had a big round table. He believed that they were going to be just like that, like romanticized it
kind of shit.
Yeah.
And Wiligut contributed heavily to a lot of like the symbols that they were going to use, a lot of the ceremonial aspects to the castle.
Wiligut designed the SS logo because those are ruins, right? Like that's in their the rings that all the fucking SS members Wiligut designed those too.
And this idea
like
lived on and was passed on. It's still around today. It's called Medieval Times. You can go and do this because everyone was having such a good time.
Yeah,
that they're like,
little
just keep doing
know.
this.
Little do you know,
you met your little kids there with his little flag. He's like, we got the Nazi again.
And Wiligut, he advised in incorporating a lot of like a Germanic and runic symbols, things like the black sun, which would become one of the key symbols of the SS, and then putting that, like he put that on, in that north tower of that castle on the floor, like that whole black sun design, like that was Willigut's idea.
Did they inspire Soundgarden to make that fucking rad song?
I did.
Black Sun?
Are you saying the Nazis or Soundgarden?
I don't know. I'm just wondering. It's a good tune.
Are they?
It could be.
I don't know.
Maybe that's why I died.
Because we found the spear again.
Spear Destiny?
Or-
Maybe. Yeah. Oh my God. Did Chris Cornell have the Spear of Destiny and then he dropped it? And that's
What it is?
Mm.
The pick of destiny is just the tip of the spear.
Mm. That would be a pretty rad way to
Huh?
guitar.
Are you descendant Renner? That's pretty fucking.
Do you have a coat on?
That's pretty Germanic.
Well,
Braden's gonna pull up his coat. I got a coat of arms. He's got it like drawn in
I
crayon.
think the Hungarian name is Renner, so it's like SZRENNER.
I will say
What?
these guys loved the blonde hair and the blue eyes, but none of the fucking guys in charge had blonde hair or blue eyes. They never looked like the guys they loved.
Hey, listen, let me tell you something.
They kind of looked like you.
I'm telling you though, the gene must be in me. If that's the case, the gene's got to be in me. Look at my son. My son is fucking blonde hair, blue
He'd
eyes.
be the poster child.
Oh yeah, 100%, dude.
Yeah.
They'd have my kid in a little uniform.
What do you call it? Not lederhosen. Maybe there was lederhosens. Fucking double fist and
Prancing around.
bratwurst.
Yeah, tossing his little heart. Oh yeah, back in the day, he would have been living the. But it might be in there. Like I mean,
For a very short period of time, unfortunately.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
would have been pretty fucking popular.
yeah, and then not so popular ever. Well,
No.
listen, I would have went to Argentina with the rest of them.
Yeah, that's fair. You already got the shirt. You're ready to
Yeah,
go.
I'm ready to go.
Retiring.
It's interesting though, because like I guess Hungarian ancestry, like it borders Germany, I guess. Is it Hungary? So like maybe my ancestors were, because I don't really know much pre-Hungarian Civil War of my like Hungarian side of the family.
Well, like there's like the Austro-Hungarian Empire, right? Like that's you guys have same ancestors.
But so like my grandfather fled the Civil War, changed his name in Canada, and then like
that's what I hear from all my old German friends. But like, oh yeah, but they weren't Nazis. They were the good ones. They like led. Haven't you seen that movie Valkyrie? It's fucking. Dude, literally, I hear it all. The only ones that aren't are my stepdad's family. They're like, no, we were not. My dad, my dad was a Nazi. It was, it is what it is.
At least I don't know. I have no idea. So I wonder if that's the history.
I was talking to my in-laws, and she's like, no, they were part, that movie with Tom Cruise. They helped out with that. Like, last name's fucking Katzer. I doubt it.
Tom Cruise, Mission Impossible. What movie? What were you talking about?
Valkyrie.
Oh, Valkyrie. Okay, yeah. That's a fucking they helped. They were undercover.
Yeah.
So after kind of making the castle,
they told Anne Frank to stay up there.
Yeah, they did. They were help hide her.
It's in the journal.
Yeah.
After making the castle, kind of the ideological center of the SS, and they were very much sold that this was destined to become the magical German strong point in some future conflict, like 100 to 200 years later. Literally, they're pretty close, between Europe and Asia is what they figured was going to happen. And it came a little bit sooner than that, but I think Wiligut ended up moving to Munich, or moved from Munich to Berlin. And this is where he kind of continued his work in the chief adjutant's office for the Reichsführer SS. And this is where at this time, I think this is when he designed the Totenkopf ring, the little skull ring that they had for the SS, like SS members and stuff like that. And then I think he was working under Karl Wolff at the time. And then by February 1939, Karl Wolff informed the staff of Wiligut's staff that he had retired on his own application, citing age and poor health, and that his office was going to be dissolved starting then. And so Himmler, in kind of one of those rare kind of spats of sentimentality or examples of sentimentality, he requested the return of Wiligut's ring, his Totenkopf ring, his dagger and a sword, and then putting it in his office, in under personal lock and key, is where he kept all that stuff. So he definitely had a soft spot.
He was really Himmler insisted, anytime an SS member died, he insisted on getting the ring back, and they put it in in the castle. There was a special room in that castle for all those rings.
Yeah.
He was super weird when it came to that type of shit. He's weird when it came to a lot of shit, actually.
Wiligut's official retirement from the SS was dated on the 28th of August, 1939. And then he was appointed a caregiver whose name was Elsa Baltrusch. And she was a member of the Reichsführer SS personal staff, and then she became his personal in-house caregiver until his death in the 3rd of January 1946. So yeah, which was he was I mean he was pretty much towards the end of his life. I just, from most reports, I think he was not very lucid. Is kind of like we said. He was. I mean, he saw the rise. And it was kind of he went out on top, I guess you could say. That's what his whole thing was.
I mean, he didn't live through the down. I guess,
dude. He peaked. he's like the empire lives strong. It's gonna last forever.
Yeah, I could die a happy man. Yeah.
I die a happy man. Yeah, he doesn't see any of the fucking downfall of it. He's just he dies with a smile on his face, thinking he's set his race and culture in the right trajectory.
They got their super villain fortress that's going to stand for 1,000 years. He's yeah, okay,
he's super. He is satisfied with himself too, because it's not like he's dying knowing that he's a grifter, because he's crazy. He thought all that was legit.
Yeah.
You know, like you'd be
Everybody
sitting on
was
your
telling him
deathbed
that
being
it
like,
was right.
I fucking took advantage of these
And one of the
guys."
most, yeah. And then when you got one of the most powerful people in Germany at the time telling you, like, yeah, everything you're doing, A-okay, buddy. Like, I believe it. Like all these other nerds who are saying that you're wrong, I don't believe them.
It's so, but you imagine it's like it's so easy for all these people to believe because they're like, yeah, you know what? You're right. We are superior. That makes sense.
Cool. That sounds cool. I'm going to.
Descendant of Heinrich the First. Yeah, good.
That tracks.
Right? Like, just basically telling everybody what they want to hear.
You know? And just like, yeah, he was a lot of this stuff. Yeah. Like a lot of historians like going back and looking at this stuff. It's like, yeah, they can find parallels from other, you know, like the lists and the lands, you know, like prior to his kind of his contemporaries, were kind of like all of that stuff was all mixing together. And they're like, no, he pulled this from here. He pulled this from here. Like this stuff that he puts in here, he pulled that from whatever. And like we mentioned, even Blavatsky, like Madame Blavatsky, like hers
from everybody.
It was still, they were like everybody was taking stuff from her. Like everybody was like, she was like the before it was cool esotericism. Not necessarily that she was spouting out the aereo sophistry, whatever it's called. I can't remember. It's like
Racism.
Yeah. Like she wasn't kind of on board with that stuff, but you know, they took all that stuff and they're like, hey, that sounds good, and we'll
that fits our narrative.
That. Yeah, Hyperborea and, you know, white people. Yeah, we love that. So yeah, and his whole, but you know, is it something like, was he lucky? Like he got, you know, he just happened to get introduced by Richard Anders, who is like an SS man. He's like, hey, you know, you're always kind of interested, like how these conversations go down between these people. Like, hey, Himmler, you got to meet this guy he's
crazy.
Yeah. And Himmler's like, nah, he's not cool. Crazy. I love it. Yeah. I'm gonna keep him in here. This is the guy who rides $150,000 Harley right here. Like, it's just, but I don't know. It's an interesting thing. Like Karl Wiligut, again, I'm sure there are other people who are kind of similar to him, but he is extremely influential in the, you know, this whole development of this esoteric Nazi ideology behind the thing, where everybody talks about, you know, they have the Thule societies and the Black Order of the Black Sun and all these other things. Like he was very much a big part of that. You know, having such a close relationship with Himmler, and being always kind of like his stuff in there. He designed the Castle of Doom, like he putting in there. He's like, you know, where to put the candles, where to hang the banners, and you know what to put on the floors. Like that's pretty, gives you a lot of power right there. But yeah, based on, again, it's just trust me, bro stuff. Like, he never had anything to back up any of his claims, really. Like he wasn't an archaeologist. He wasn't a thing who had like actual artifacts. He's just like, yeah, all he had was he just garnered all of this credibility based on his clairvoyant like ancestral memory, I guess, like however that works.
It's just weird that you like, and it doesn't, again, in the late 20s, this guy is certified crazy. So at the time they're like, this guy's fucking off his rocker, certified. And then after being released, rise the ranks that he did to, like, and like nobody knew.
Because nobody knew. They changed his name. They changed his name and they put in there, and nobody knew that he had been in an insane asylum. Like
the crazy thing, though, he's bumping elbows with all these like doctors and scientists and like you don't think anyone was just like had a conversation with him, was like, I guess at the time though,
but he's not foaming at the mouth.
He's like, buddies with Himmler. Well, listen, Buddy starts coming in. He's like, there's three sons. I'm a descendant of the king of Dakota. I'm like,
yeah, but you're making it sound like he's like, I'm telling you, this guy was probably a little bit more eloquent.
Yeah.
Knew how to talk to people. He's charismatic. And maybe he actually fucking learned some shit from being in the asylum. Maybe he got treated. Maybe he was on some type of fucking benzo.
I like to think.
Also probably you start looking to him, like talking to Himmler about this guy and being like, you sure this guy's in love? And he gives you that look, you know, that face.
That's what I like to think.
Okay, never mind.
I like to think this guy
I don't
was
want my
foaming
throat slit at night. Like,
this guy was foaming at the mouth, just going crazy. There's 3 sons, right? Full Alex Jones back in the day. And like people would be like, go to Himmler, and Himmler would be like give him the look. And then no one wanted to say anything because like he's a made man.
Yeah,
he's Himmler's wizard.
Oh, he's in the SS. Alive. He's in the Schrufen Mafia, like he called it.
But it's always interesting.
He's buddies with the fucking Reichsführer of the fucking SS. You can't stop that guy.
Always interesting taking a deep dive on the Nazis. And that stuff. So
anything, I don't know, anything we get into history, it's fun.
Yeah, that was cool.
I love diving into that shit. It's interesting.
Well, it's weird because you're like, some of the shit is so weird, and you're like, well, this really happened though. Like, this is
crazy.
We know this happened, and you're like, oh, it's not even that long ago. You had a fucking Temple of Doom where you had a collection of mystics
with dudes dressed all in fucking black trench coats, looking literally like textbook supervillains. Yeah, like it's crazy. It's.
I mean,
were they the death heads?
They were the textbooks. I mean, all of our supervillains are based off of that. Like, you know,
that's probably why
they were the textbook supervillains. Like,
yeah, it's crazy. Like
everything's modeled off of them. Like,
yeah.
All right. Well, hey, listen. You want more alien theories theorizing? Have you listened to this? You're like, you know what I could go for? Some more.
More Nazis.
More Nazis. Well, listen, we got tons of bonus content on Patreon. Patreon.com
Nazis too, probably.
/Alien Theorist Podcast.
Is on there?
Yeah, fuck it.
Operation Video.
It's unreal. Or even easier, alientheorist.com. Hit that support tab. You can go to Supercast, get that. We have hundreds of hours of bonus content for you, ranging from aliens, history, D&D, sports.
To like fucking just rambling, venting, and being stupid.
Yeah. We actually, our latest Endeavor Grinds actually lost us subscribers. So people are like, they're grumpy. Just us having a first coffee of the day, letting you know how we're feeling.
That's a rule. First coffee, first thing in the morning. Like just sleep, still in the eyes, all that shit.
And just come in for teeth grinding. It's fun. So go check it out if you like alien theorists theorizing and you like what we do and you want to support the show. Go check it out. And as we always say at the end of these things, keep those eyes on the skies.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to leave up holiday decorations year-round. Others have the need to use their garage as practice space for their new metal band. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.